Now, what do Muslims say about the Qur'an? Well, they say quite a bit about it. According to the Hadith, Mishkat al-Masabi, the Qur'an is the greatest wonder among the wonders of the world. This book is second to none in the world according to unanimous decision of the learned men in points of diction, style, rhetoric, thought, and soundness of laws and regulations to shape the destiny of mankind. Now, that's quite a bit to say. It is not equal. It is unequaled. There is no other revelation that comes close to it. You'll find many times whenever you get into a debate. I remember doing a debate at Trafalgar Square where Sheikh Omar Bakri Muhammad, who is the leader, the creator of the Muhajirun movement, now Islam for UK, that Anjum Chowdhury is leading. But he was the one that created it. And we did a debate there back in the 1990s at Trafalgar Square. And he had 5,000 Muslims that he had brought together in August, a Saturday in August. And he had me get up onto the plinth with him. And he decided to do a debate, an impromptu debate, in front of these 5,000 Muslims. And he made this claim. After I'd said quite a few things against the Quran, he says, okay, Mr. Smith, show me a surah like it. Bring, therefore, a chapter like it. Bring anything that can equal the Quran. And I just opened up my Bible and opened up to Psalm 23. And started reading Psalm 23 in the microphone. They turned off the microphone. So I stepped forward and I used my speaker's corner voice. If any of you come to London on a Sunday, you'll know how loud a voice I have. I have the loudest voice down there. After 24 years, it's got louder and louder and louder. And I just continued, finishing up Psalm 23, turned towards him, and I said, you show me a surah like that. Show me anything in the Quran that can equal Psalm 23. And I could have done any of the Psalms. I could have gone to any one of my favorite chapters, 1 Corinthians or Matthew 5, and it's superior to anything you'll find in the Quran. They asked me to leave the stage. But you can do the same thing. Don't walk away from that claim. They will make it. They will say that nothing equals the Quran. Here's the 5 questions you need to ask, and it's just 5 simple questions. And you'll find that the Muslims have to say yes to all 5, the first 4. First question is it eternal? What will Muslims say to that? No? Absolutely. Every Muslim, whether they are radical, nominal, or liberal, have to say it is eternal. The Quran says it itself in Surah 85, Ayah 22. This is the Quran that comes from those tablets, those eternal tablets, co-eternal with God, which is in and of itself a problem because you're already implying a duality. But that's the first claim they'll make. Secondly, was this Quran sent down to a man named Muhammad over a period of 22 years? Absolutely. So it's eternal and sent down between 610 and 632. Number 3, was it complete in the 7th century? Absolutely. Every Muslim, whether they are radical, nominal, or liberal, will say, well, maybe the liberals won't. But there's very few liberals left anymore. Almost all of the Muslims, 99%, will say absolutely. It was compiled during the time of Uthman in 650, roughly 18 years after Muhammad's death. So, eternal, sent down, complete. Number 4, has it been changed? Is it unchanged? Absolutely, it is unchanged. So everything we see in the Quran today, every line, every consonantal, every diacritical mark, even some will say the vowelization, all of this is exactly the same as that which is in heaven, which was sent down to the Prophet over the 22 years, then compiled by Uthman. So just remember those 4 words. Eternal, sent down, complete, unchanged. This is so easy. Ask those 4 questions. Then number 5, prove it. Prove it. Which means they're going to have to come up with a complete Quran that's unchanged from the 7th century. That's all we're asking. And we're only talking about 1,400 years ago. If you come down to London, I will show you the Sinaiticus, the entire New Testament, all 27 books of the New Testament from the 4th century, right there in our British Library. Right next to it is the Alexandrinus. That is the entire Old and New Testament from the 5th century. Those 2 documents right there are 300 to 400 years older than the Quran. So certainly they can come up with 1 manuscript from the 7th century. Right? And they claim that they can. Every Muslim will claim that there are 6 manuscripts that exist today that are from the 7th century. Even the scholars claim this. Dr. Shabir Ali claims it. The reason why is because the traditions claim it. Bukhari claims it. Talks about Uthman. that Zayd ibn Thabit was given the responsibility to recompile the Quran. This is in chapter 6, verse 509 and 510 of Al-Bukhari. And that he was to correct it, and if there's any missing text, he was to put it together, and they were to rewrite the Quran. If there was any disagreement, they were to use the Qurayshi dialect, and then they were to burn all the other manuscripts, which is troubling in and of itself, and then they were to make 4 copies and send it to the 4 major cities. One was left in Medina, one was sent to Basra, one was sent to Baghdad, one was sent to Damascus. So Medina, Basra, Baghdad, and Damascus are where the 4 copies were sent. Those are known as the Mus'hafs. Those are the original Uthmanic codices. Every Muslim that I talk to, especially in Britain and here in Europe, will know that. Okay? So, just take a look at the world that we're talking about. That's the map I showed you earlier. You can see where Basra is, you can see where Baghdad is. There's Basra there, there's Baghdad, there's Damascus, is right up in there, and then of course, Jerusalem and Cairo and Medina is down here. So those are the 4 areas where the 4 codices were sent. Now, they've owned that land ever since. Except for Jerusalem, that land is still under their control. So there's no reason not to have those manuscripts today, right? Are you hearing me? I hope you're getting this part. Because every Muslim will say exactly what I've just said. So where are those original copies? That's what we want to know. Now, Muslims will say, well, you have the Topkapi Musaf, which is there in in Istanbul. You have the Samarkand in Tashkent. Dr. Shabir Ali, who is considered the world authority on this, and this is the debate I did last September. You can go up online and look at the debate in Toronto. I asked him, and he was very clear that the Topkapi, the Samarkand, and the Ma'il, the 3 of them, are Uthmanic, and they are complete and unchanged. So let's take a look. There's the Topkapi there on the left. If you look carefully, you'll see a blood mark. See the blood stain right there? That's Uthman's blood. He was killed while he was reading it, and that's why his blood stain is there from 650. Here's the Samarkand. It's a little bit different. It's what we call a monumental text. It's much thicker. And here is the Ma'il. That's in the British Library. You can go see it. It's there on display. No one's running away from it. And if you take a look, you can see the script is different between those 2 texts. This is Kufic. This is from the Abbasid period. And this is Hijazi. So that would be from the time of the Umayyad period. When you look at the other 6, the other 3 that are very important, you have the Petropolitanus, which is in Paris at the Bibliothèque Nationale, and then you have the Husseini manuscript, which is there in Cairo. That's also a monumental text. And then you have the most recent one, the most exciting one, the Sana manuscript, which was just discovered in 1975. I see you. Don't worry, we'll get it in time. Now, we've never really been able to look at these manuscripts or do any forensic testing on them, so we can only assume that they know what they're talking about. And for 33 years, I've always assumed that these were Uthmanic, until just the last few years. These 2 men here, Dr. Tahir Atakulic and Ekmelin Nasanoglu. These are the 2 Turkish scholars from your country who own the Topkapi manuscript, who were given responsibility to look at these 6 manuscripts between 2002 and 2007. So they had 5 years to look at them. They are the only ones that have ever looked at these manuscripts and done any forensic testing. And they came out with their conclusions in 2009. It's now in English. You can get it. I have it on my computer. Al-Musaf al-Sharif is the name of the text, all in English. All you need to do is read the introduction, the first 83 pages. And this is what they're saying. We have none of Uthman's Musafs, according to Ekmeluddin. Nor do we have any copies of these Musafs. These Musafs, that means these codices, these books, these manuscripts date from the later Umayyad period. The Umayyad period went from 651 to 749. So he's talking about basically the mid-8th century. Dr. Tahir Atakulic is much more of a scholar. He's even more serious. Though no seriously scholarly work has ever been done on any of these Musafs. These Musafs date from the early to mid-8th century. They are not Uthmanic, nor are they copies sent by him. He dates the Topkapi manuscript to the mid-8th century. That's about 100 years after Uthman. It has many deviations from the grammatical rules. It has spelling mistakes. It has 2,270 manuscript variants. That means words or phrases in that Quran that's not like the Quran we have today. It only includes 78% of the Quran. So not only is it unchanged, it is changed, it is not even complete. And it is about 100 years after Uthman. Strike 1. The Samarkand, he says, is from the mid-8th century. It only goes up to Surah 43. It is full of grammatical mistakes. In fact, it is so hopeless, he says, it's an embarrassment because whoever wrote it did not know their Arabic. And it only includes half of the Quran. Undisciplined spelling, different writing styles, scribal mistakes, copyist mistakes, written by someone with little experience, with later additions. He finally concludes it's an embarrassment. Don't even use it. That's the one in Tashkent in Uzbekistan. The Ma'il Quran only goes up, again, to Surah 43. Isn't that interesting? It's from the late 8th century. This would be the one that should be the oldest because it has the Hijazi text, which is the earlier script. It only includes 53% of the Quran. It is full of manuscript variants. The Paris Petropolitanus is not complete. It only includes 26% of the Quran. 74% is missing. It has mistakes. It is later modified. It has 93 differences with the disagreements with the Quran that we have today, just within the 26% that does exist. The Husayni Cairo manuscript is from the 9th century. It's 200 years after Uthman. He said mid-8th century. Franz Dorosch has now corrected him and put it to the 9th century. It is bigger much later. It is full of manuscript variants and the Sana manuscript. This was discovered in 1975. It was looked by the Germans in 1981. They found that the upper text is probably the earliest of all the manuscripts. It is dated to 705. However, if you take a look at it very carefully, I went to visit Dr. Garrett Pritt and he showed me a facsimile. Here is Surah 19. The yellow mark jumps to Surah 22. What happened to Surah 20 and 21? Surah 20 begins over here on the other side of the page. Take a look at between the two pages. You notice the two different scripts? That's a 705 script. This is a late 8th century script. There's about 60 years between these two pages. Can you see the problem? What's more, take a look at every one of those orange marks. See, every time you see an orange mark, that is a manuscript variant. That means a phrase or word that is different from the Quran that we have today. There's 1,000 of these manuscript variants just within that manuscript, but it gets worse. When they looked at it carefully, they noticed that it had a subtext, an undertext. If you look carefully under ultraviolet light, you'll see another text that's underneath because this is written on animal skin. You can wash it off and write over top and wash it off and write over top. Now, we're just looking at the first layer. They are now separating it at Columbia University, and they're looking at the two layers. And they notice that the lower layer is from the late 7th century. It disagrees with the upper layer. Ooh, I love this. Dr. Garrett Pritt's wife, Elizabeth Quinn, is coming out with a book next month. She has found 4 layers of text. We're going to hear about it next month. It's finally in English. She's going to destroy any notion that there was any Quran at all from the 7th century. But let me just go beyond this to the best material. Here's where the rubber hits the road. This is the best. I saved the best to last. Dr. Dan Brubaker did 10 years of study. I see the 5 minutes. 10 years of study, and he looked at the 10 major manuscripts, including the 6 we just looked at, and 4 others that are much later, not earlier, but later. He spent 10 years going all over the world, filming them, looking for corrections. He was hoping to find maybe 10, possibly 15 corrections. That's all he was looking for. He found 800. 800 corrections. Insertions, erasures, insertions like you see here. See how the word is just put above the line. Here's another word put above the line. Here's a whole word that's put above the line. Here's a word that's put another line. These words were added, hundreds upon hundreds of these insertions. Erasers, they just erased the word, completely erased it, knowing that there's something's wrong with the text. Hundreds of these erasers where they erased it and then they wrote over top of it. Here they erased it and they wrote over top of it. Here they erased it and they wrote over top of it. Sometimes they didn't even bother to erase it. They just wrote over top of it. So you can see both the lower and the upper text. Ooh, that's lovely. He found hundreds of these tapings. They put tapes over top and you think, well, maybe that's because it's damaged. But you look at the backside, there's no damage whatsoever. They're trying to hide something. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 within one page. Over and over again, these tapings, these coverings. Here you find covering where they just cover it. They don't say they just cover it. They're just trying to obliterate. Wouldn't you love to pick up the coverings and see what's written underneath? And sometimes they would cover it and then write what's 1 or 2 letters over top of it. A whole phrase is replaced by 1 letter. Here's another covering, replaced over and over again, these coverings with replacements. So what can we conclude? Over 800 corrections he has found, and he has filmed every one of them. I introduced this in the debate in September last year to Shabir Ali. He was given 35 minutes to come up with an explanation. What's more damaging is that these corrections continue right up into the 9th century. They're not just in the 7th, I'm sorry, none of them are from the 7th century, because all of these manuscripts begin to appear in the 8th century. Muhammad died in the early 7th century. The Quran was canonized or completed in the mid 7th century, according to every Muslim. These manuscripts don't even begin to appear to the 8th century. Not one of these manuscripts are parallel. Not one of them is complete. Every one of them has changes, and these changes continue right up into the 9th century. And most damaging, he's looking at the claims, at the changes now, and he's found that they are all standardizing the text, bringing the text to one uniform text, which means there was no Quran at all in the 7th century. No, and what's fascinating, we're not even talking about diacritical marks or vowelization. We're not talking about the Dhamma or the Kasra or the Fatha. We're not talking about any of the dots. Those don't even begin to appear to the late 8th, early 9th century. We're talking about just consonantal text. Now, Western scholars now all agree that the earliest Muslims begin to appear in the 8th century. Even Muslim scholars like Miladin, Isanalu, and Dr. Tal Atukulich now agree that all the Qurans begin in the 8th century. Islamic Awareness, the most prolific website that's up on the internet, have been a thorn in our side. They have finally agreed that all the earliest Muslims begin in the 8th century. The latest research shows that even those Muslims have 7 forms of corrections dating up until the 9th century. Therefore, I conclude, since Muslims cannot prove that there are any complete manuscripts from the time of Uthman, the Quran is not eternal, was not sent down, was not complete, and is not the same. Ooh, I love this. See how easy this is? See, we would never make this claim as Christians. We would never say our Bible is eternal. Please don't say that. We would never say that it was sent down. No, it was written by men here on earth, inspired by God, but not sent down by an angel and written piecemeal like a tablet's written. We would never make those claims. Complete, yes, we would make the third claim, that it was complete when it was finished in the original manuscripts. Change, yes, we know where the changes are. We even warn the readers that the end of Mark 16, from 9 to 20, are possibly not from the original manuscripts. We don't have the original manuscripts, and they're not found in the earliest Greek manuscripts. John chapter 7, verse 53 to John 8:11, that could be a later interpolation. We put the possibility out there, and we warn the reader. We even put lines before and after to warn the reader that these changes are there. So we would never make these claims. Do you see how easy it is? But hold on a minute. See, the Bible is not the only Word of God that we have. There's another Word of God who took on flesh and dwelt among us. The Word of God, the Logos, right? Is He eternal? Was He sent down? Was He complete? Is He unchanged? Ooh, we've got what they're looking for. See, everything they want, we've already got. His name is Jesus Christ. Bring Him home. Bring Him home. Now, let's just finish. I see I have to summate this real quickly. The books are now published which question the classical account of Islam's beginning. Why are there no Muslim sources for 200 years of Muhammad's biography? Why do the claims they make not fit the historical record? Why are the geographical references so few and confusing? Why do they all seem to be much further north? Why are there so many references to vegetation which wouldn't exist in Mecca? Why is Mecca not mentioned until 741, nor included on any maps until 900? Why is Mecca not on the trade route? Why do all the Qiblas face Petra for the first 100 years, then are confused for the next 100 years, and aren't standardized until 822, 200 years too late? Much of what we know about early Islam is thus in doubt. Much of the Quran is also in doubt. None of the earliest Muslims are from Uthman, but begin to appear much later around the time of Abdul al-Malik, suggesting that Muhammad had nothing to do with the Quran. Ooh, I love this. And that's what I said at the debate. Shabir Ali got angry. And he said, I hope you're saying this tongue-in-cheek. And I said, I am not saying it tongue-in-cheek. It looks like Muhammad had nothing to do with the Quran. Therefore, who is Muhammad and what is his purpose? Please don't you say that, let me say it, okay? It's up on YouTube. That debate that we did in September, now 80,000 people have watched. And this is bringing people to the Lord. Because this same question was asked of our Bible in the 1800s. These questions were all confronting our Bible. Documentary hypothesis, redacted criticism, source criticism. We have answered every one of those criticisms. We're now applying the same criticisms to the Bible, and we're bringing people home. God bless you. We need to stop there. We need to put it out.